In the headlines for this hour on VTV News, State President visit Kyushu region. Prime Minister attends Vietnam-Turkey Business Forum. Israel-Hamas agree to extend ceasefire for another day.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi. You're watching VTV News. Continuing his official visit to Japan after finishing activities in Tokyo, State President Võ Văn Thưởng and his spouse visited Fukuoka. He met with the governor of Fukuoka Prefectures, Hattori Setaro, and leaders of some localities in the Kyushu region.
The state president suggested the governor of Fukuoka prefectures and localities in the Kyushu region to make greater efforts to realize the new relationship framework by promoting cooperation between the Kyushu region and Vietnamese localities. He called for more investment from the Kyushu region's enterprises in Vietnam, especially in the fields of their strengths such as processing, manufacturing, smart agriculture and wastewater treatment, and cooperation in human resources training. The Japanese officials affirmed that the region is willing to strengthen collaboration with Vietnamese localities and wants to receive more high-quality laborers and technical apprentices from Vietnam to work in the prefectures. They also affirmed to promote the opening of regular flights between Kagoshima Prefecture and Vietnam, thus strengthening economic and tourism cooperation between the two sides.
Receiving President of the Kyushu Vietnam Friendship Association, Hoshino Hiroshi, the Vietnamese state leader asked the association to continue supporting Kyushu localities to enhance exchange and collaboration with Vietnamese sides, and organize more cultural exchange activities, people-to-people exchanges. The association leader affirmed that he will make more efforts to further promote cooperation between the Kyushu region and Vietnam, and support the Vietnamese community to integrate into Japan. He added that the association will also promote the resumption of the travel study program after a halt caused by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Receiving leaders of the Japan-Vietnam Specialists Association led by President of Hiroshima University, Professor Otri Mitsuo, and many professors and scientists in various fields, the state president thanked professors and association members for helping Vietnam obtain achievements in education, training, science and technology. Noting that the Mekong Delta is hit hard by climate change, the state leader asked the association to expand partnerships with universities and localities of Vietnam in this field. He also suggested the association promote the expansion of networks connecting experts and cooperation between research facilities of the two countries, boost collaboration in digital and green technology, health, and semiconductors.
Earlier, the state president had a meeting with representatives of the Vietnamese community living in 7 prefectures of the Kyushu region. He stated that the party and state always want Vietnamese people abroad to integrate well and have a solid socio-economic foundation to work and study in the host country. He hoped that people will actively participate with specific actions to upgrade the relationship between the two countries for benefits of the two peoples.
Prime Minister Phie had a meeting with Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, Numan Kurtulmuş, in Ankara on November 29th local time as part of his official visit. Speaker Kurtulmuş praised the historical significance of Prime Minister Phie's official visit, especially at a time when Vietnam and Turkey are celebrating the 45th anniversary of diplomatic relations. At the meeting, the two sides discussed and agreed on numerous measures to enhance the effectiveness of cooperation between the two countries and parliaments, including all-level delegation exchanges and education and training, especially in language, to improve mutual understanding between the two peoples. Regarding parliamentary cooperation, the two sides agreed to increase contacts and exchanges between the two national assemblies, friendship parliamentarian groups, and young parliamentarian groups to share experience in lawmaking, monitoring, and decision-making on important issues of the both countries. Both sides also discussed regional and international issues of common concern. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính shared Vietnam's stance on the settlement of conflicts by peaceful measures through dialogue. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính suggested Turkey recognize Vietnam's full market economy status and the two sides negotiate a free trade agreement while addressing a business forum in Ankara on November 30th, local time, jointly held by the Vietnamese Ministry of Planning and Investment, the Vietnamese Embassy in Turkey, and the Foreign Economic Relations Board. The event brought together representatives from ministries, agencies, and localities, and nearly 200 corporate leaders of the two countries. The government leaders affirmed that Vietnam always creates optimal conditions for large, high-tech and experienced enterprises, including those from Turkey, to operate in the country. He held that ample room remains for the two countries to boost their collaboration, yet cooperation mechanisms remain limited. Therefore, Turkey's recognition of Vietnam's full market economy status and a free trade agreement will facilitate the operations of their businesses. Representatives from Turkish ministries and businesses said that they wish to cooperate with Vietnam in transport infrastructure, household utensils, production, science technologies, finance, aviation, logistics, renewable energies, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, and the highland industry. Statistics show that two-way trade reached $2.4 billion in 2022, which is expected to rise in the time ahead. Turkey is now Vietnam's largest direct investor from the Middle East region, with a total registered capital of nearly $1 billion. A number of agencies and businesses of the two countries signed cooperation agreements on this occasion. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính met with the staff of the Vietnamese embassies in Turkey, representative of the Vietnamese community in Ankara on November 29th local time, within the framework of his official visit to the country. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính shared that he had proposed the Turkish side continue creating more favorable conditions for the Vietnamese community to continue living and working in the country, making positive contributions to its development as well as friendship between the two countries. He affirmed that overseas Vietnamese are an integral part and a resource of the nations, and the party and state pay attention to, care for, and support them to stabilize, integrate into the host society, preserve Vietnamese language and cultural identity, and encourage and create favorable conditions for them to actively contribute to the nation building and safeguarding cause. He expressed his hope that Vietnamese people in Turkey continue believing in the leadership of the party and state and coordinating closely with the embassies to become a firm bridge for the bilateral friendship. There are currently more than 200 Vietnamese people living and working in Turkey. The sixth session of the 15th National Assembly successfully concluded, completing the program in all three tasks of legislating, monitoring, and deciding important issues of the country with high consensus is expected to better meet practical requirements. This result was achieved thanks to the careful preparations of government agencies as well as the professionalism and high responsibility of the National Assembly in discussing and considering major issues of the country.
The revised land law draft has been discussed in 3 National Assembly sessions. As National Assembly deputies propose to continue to carefully review and revise the draft law, the National Assembly agreed not to pass the bill at the 6th session.
I think the National Assembly made right decisions which demonstrate the responsibility of the 15th National Assembly and National Assembly deputies before voters and people nationwide.
The method of this National Assembly session can continue to be applied. That is the organization of the session in 2 phases. Between the 2 phases, the National Assembly Standing Committee held meetings to give comments on draft laws before approval. Thus, the quality of law-making was ensured.
The National Assembly approved 7 laws and 2 resolutions, and discussed 8 other draft laws during the sessions. Despite the large legislative workload, the National Assembly carefully prepared and thoroughly considered them to ensure high quality and consensus.
After over half of its term, the National Assembly has completed 83% of its legislative tasks. If there are still issues needing to be addressed, we will continue to add new legislative tasks into the next sessions in order to serve the ultimate rights and legitimate interests of the people and the country.
Vietnam successfully defended its fifth national report on the implementations of the International Conventions on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, or CERT, at a session in Geneva, Switzerland on Thursday. During the two-day working sessions, the Vietnamese delegation answered many questions of the CERT in terms of building a legal policy system and tackling issues related to ethnic groups in the country. The fifth national report represents Vietnam's achievements in protecting human rights for ethnic people. It also demonstrates that the party and the state of Vietnam always keep a consistent viewpoint on promoting national solidarity and ensuring the rights of ethnic people. Vietnam became a member of CERT in 1982. Since then, Vietnam has successfully defended the national reports on the CERT implementations 4 times. Coming up next on VTV News, Vietnam makes efforts to achieve net zero emissions target. And protecting children's rights in the environmental crisis. Welcome back to VTV News. The United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP28, will take place in the United Arab Emirates from November 30th until December 12th. Prime Minister Phie leads the Vietnamese delegation to participate in the event. Since the country committed to achieve net zero emissions 2 years ago at COP26, Vietnam has made many strides, demonstrating a strong determination in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and contributing to global efforts in climate change response and the goals of the Paris Agreement on climate change.
Since COP26, Vietnam has developed low-emission fields. Each kilogram of dragon fruit emits 100 grams of CO2, nearly 10 times less than before. This information is now provided in traceability stamps.
It records the cultivation process and helps calculate the amount of emissions.
Many policies and action programs to reduce greenhouse gas emissions have been issued. The National Power Development Plan and National Energy Development Master Plan have been approved. Carbon credit from forests have begun to get paid. The Financial Resource Mobilization Plan under the Just Energy Transition Partnership has been completed. Over the past 2 years, Vietnam has gradually realized its commitments at COP26. It expects to make further progress at COP28 this year.
Vietnam expects that countries will continue to take strong actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, carry out a sustainable and just energy transition, and that developed countries will fulfill their commitments.
The goal of mobilizing $100 billion each year for climate action needs to be realized at this year's conference. The financial goals for the period from now to 2030 must also reach consensus.
COP28 will be the first conference where the world evaluates the implementation of commitments by countries. At the conference, the host country is expected to develop a detailed global action plan.
Children are at the center of climate action agendas of 2023 United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP28. The event will present the latest evidence and data on how climate change disproportionately affects children, as well as new and significant guidance on how countries can respect, promote, and consider child rights in climate action. This is even more meaningful as Vietnam has been ranked among the countries most affected by climate change. Over the decades, the United Nations Children Fund, or UNICEF, has been working with the Vietnamese government to ensure children's rights in all activities to climate action.
Children make up 1/3 of the global population. Nevertheless, children born in 2020 are predicted to experience 2.6 times as many drought events, 2.8 times as many river floods, and 6.8 times more heat waves across their lifetimes, compared to their grandparents. COP28 is considered as a golden opportunity to bring attention to one of the most vulnerable groups in society, including Vietnamese children.
We support innovation in approaches. The introduction of very effective water recycling toilet systems in schools in Soc Trang, for example. Solar panels, air purification for schools and health centres. And Vietnam's already shown its leadership, its commitment to address the climate crisis. We need the government to invest today to get the net zero train moving. So UNICEF's focus will be on how we can achieve those net zero commitments for children.
Both the National Plan for Natural Disaster Prevention and Control as well as the National Disaster Risk Management mentioned the need to protect children. With the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and UNICEF's contributions, Vietnamese children will be equipped and know how to protect themselves, their families and communities against natural disasters and climate change.
This year, COP28 is making sure that children's voices are heard through multiple young-led initiatives. In Vietnam, UNICEF launched a social media campaign named 1 Minute Green Video Challenge to call on children, adolescents, and young people in Vietnam to turn a green thought into a green action for the country. About 600 children have joined the initiative, with 300 videos addressing the impacts of climate change.
Our message in this project is system change, not climate change, which means we should focus on increasing awareness and changing people's behavior in order to fight climate change. We believe that it's time for us to act together, and a media campaign on climate change is not enough.
I think young people should be taught the impact of global warming and learn how to adapt to climate change. They also need to be given a voice and a chance for meaningful participation, as we always say children are the future.
Look, we can only protect women and children if we take urgent action on the net zero targets. If Vietnam's to achieve its high income aspirations, then it must deliver on the Prime Minister's call to action on green energy, on the net zero emissions. And UNICEF heeds that call by helping Vietnam, by helping the government move to green energy, to climate smart schools, for example, and health centres, to climate smart social services.
Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh will also announce Vietnam's new initiatives and commitments at the 28th Union Climate Change Conference in joint efforts against climate change.
The 13th Congress of Vietnam Trade Union Terms 2023-2028 is scheduled to be held on December 1st at the National Convention Center in Hanoi. About 1,100 delegates representing more than 11 million members of labor unions nationwide are expected to participate in the Congress. Over the past 5 years, labor unions have fulfilled their missions of representing and protecting the legitimate rights and interests of workers, civil servants, public employees, and laborers.
This company cut about 20% of its staff due to the impact of global economic uncertainties. However, its employees and workers have never worried about salary delays. After the company resumed operation post-pandemic, lunches for workers and employees increased from $1 to $1.24 per serving.
When they got sick, workers received compensation for loss of income during tough times.
We are working closely with the labor union to create favorable working environment for workers and employees. We signed a collective agreement and have implemented policies that protect the rights of workers.
For the first time in this company, the board of directors and the labor union reached a consensus about raising wages for workers. Since April, wages for workers have increased from 5% to 8%. The wage hike is based on different criteria for employees at each position.
We were convinced by the labor union's proposals, so we promised to stop laying workers off and increase their wages from 5% to 10%. Salary ranges vary based upon position.
For many years, labor unions have made all-out efforts to negotiate wages, benefits, and working conditions with employers on behalf of their members. They also work to protect the interests of their members in the event of layoffs or plant closures.
We are aiming to improve the operational efficiency of labor unions, carry out more programs to boost the engagement of union members. We hope they will contribute to the country's prosperity and development in the future.
Labor unions represent the collective interests of workers. Therefore, the Vietnam General Confederation of Labor is expected to put forward more proposals to the government in an attempt to facilitate the operation of labor unions and produce benefits for communities.
The SC25 fragrant rice variety of Vietnam named Ông Cua has won the World's Best Rice 2023 award recently held in Philippines. This is the second time the SC25 rice variety from Sóc Trăng province has seized the award, following the first time in 2019. The father of the world's best rice variety, SC25, is labor hero Ho Quang Cua. The World's Best Rice 2023 gathered 30 rice samples from more than 10 countries. As the final results, Vietnam SC25 rice became the winner of this year's competitions, followed by Cambodian and Indian rice varieties. The SC25 variety is the latest generations of the famous fragrant rice line with many qualities that are classified as premium. The rice production follows strict requirements for organic rice farming. Coming up next in our war news, Israel and Hamas agreed to extend ceasefire for another day. And Germany teens arrested over alleged terror plans. The truce between Israel and Hamas has been extended for a seventh day. Israel military confirmed on Thursday that a truce with Hamas will continue, allowing further hostage and prisoner releases and the possibility of a durable pause in hostilities. The Israeli military confirmations came just minutes before the ceasefire was due to expire. The temporary pause in fightings in the Gaza Strip will continue in light of the mediators' effort to continue the process of releasing hostages and subject to the terms of the agreement. Meanwhile, Hamas said an agreement had been reached to extend the temporary ceasefire, which initially began on Friday. Residents in the Gaza Strip have welcomed the agreement by Israel and Hamas to extend the current humanitarian truce. They hope the warring parties would reach a permanent ceasefire as soon as possible.
Qatar, as well as Egypt and the United States, helped broker the four-day humanitarian truce between Israel and Hamas that started on Friday. Under the four-day ceasefire deal, Hamas would release at least 50 hostages from Gaza in exchange for some 150 Palestinian detainees freed from Israeli jails.
We would like to see a permanent ceasefire, as everyone here lives under great pressure. In my family, we are plagued with worry every night about the possible bombing the next day. We are grateful for the efforts of the international community.
The Gaza Strip is still facing a shortage of food, fuel, medical supplies, and shelter despite the extension of the humanitarian truce between Israel and Hamas. As the initial temporary humanitarian truce entered into force on Friday in Gaza. On Tuesday, the fifth day of the truce, Gaza residents said the aid materials which have arrived and distributed in Gaza are far from adequate.
We have had some relaxation in the past 2 days. We hope the international community will help push for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza so that we can go back to life as it was before the conflict. Otherwise, our lives will get harder and harder.
International pressure has mounted for the truce to continue as long as possible after nearly 8 weeks of Israeli bombardment.
German police on Wednesday arrested 2 teenagers on suspicions of planning a terror attack in the country. The boys, aged 15 and 16, has allegedly discussed plans to attack infidels and had identified a synagogue and a Christmas market as potential targets. It wasn't immediately clear how serious the alleged plot was. According to the German Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, the boys exchanged information over the Telegram messaging app. They called for a holy war against the West and announced a terrorist attack in Germany for December 1st. Germany's intelligence agencies warned of a heightened risk of terror attacks in the country. South Korea multicultural marriages logged a double-digit growth last year due to the ease of COVID-19 pandemic. Statistical Office data showed on Wednesday. The number of multicultural marriages jumped 25% over the year to more than 17,000 in 2022. It marked the fastest increase since the relevant data began to be compiled in 2008. A multicultural marriage refers to a marriage where either the husband or the wife is a foreigner or a naturalized person, and a marriage where both the husband and the wife are naturalized. Of all the foreign and naturalized wives, Vietnamese women accounted for the largest share of 23%. Men from the United States made up the highest share of all foreign and naturalized husbands with 8%. And now, as usual, let's continue with the weather forecast. And that's it for this hour of VTV News. To rewatch your program, you can log on to VTVgo.vn or download our mobile application VTVgo. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.